The encrypted message was clear. Terminate subject Echo 7. Extreme prejudice. No survivors. 3 enemy commanders had signed her death warrant. They'd studied her patterns, tracked her movements, analyzed every mission she'd ever completed. They knew her tactics, her weapons preferences, even the way she took her coffee during pre-dawn briefings. What they didn't know was that Ella Ramirez had been reading their communications for the past 6 months. And tonight, in a safe house in rural Maryland, she wasn't going to capture them. She was going to end them. Meet Ella Ramirez, 28 years old, 5'6", with deceptively lean build that concealed muscles carved from 6 years of special operations training. Dark eyes that could read a room in seconds and end a threat in milliseconds. Black hair usually pulled back tight enough to hurt. Combat scars on her left shoulder and right thigh. Souvenirs from missions that officially never happened. She was Shadow Unit Delta's primary assault operator, a classification so secret that even most Pentagon officials didn't know it existed. Shadow Unit Delta didn't officially exist on any military roster. No congressional oversight, no press conferences, no medal ceremonies, just direct action. The kind of direct action that eliminated high-value targets before they became existential threats, that prevented wars through surgical strikes, that kept American citizens safe while they slept in their beds completely unaware of the monsters that had been hunting them. Ella had been with the unit for 6 years, 47 confirmed kills, 0 mission failures. Before that, Army Rangers, the youngest female Ranger graduate in program history at 22. Before that, MIT with a degree in international relations, her mother's dream for her, before Ella chose a different path. She spoke 6 languages fluently and could blend into a crowd in 17 different countries. But her real specialty was something much more direct, close-quarters combat with automatic weapons. Her weapon of choice was a heavily modified HK-416 assault rifle, compact, reliable, devastating. 14-inch barrel, suppressor, holographic sight, under-barrel flashlight, 30-round magazine loaded with 5.56 millimeter rounds, designed to stop threats permanently. She could put 3 rounds into a target center mass from 50 meters in under 2 seconds. At close range, she was absolutely lethal. This particular Thursday morning in November started exactly the way every morning had started for the past 3 weeks. Ella sat in the secure operations bunker beneath an unmarked building in suburban Virginia, surrounded by 14 monitors displaying real-time intelligence feeds from 17 different countries. Coffee going cold in a titanium mug, her HK-416 within arm's reach. Always. Commander James Blackwell, her immediate superior, walked into the operations center at 0600 hours sharp. Blackwell was 48, former Marine Force recon, with close-cropped gray hair and eyes that had witnessed operations across 4 continents that would never see declassification. "Echo, I need you to look at something," Blackwell said, his voice carrying that particular tone that meant whatever was coming was going to require Ella's unique skill set. Blackwell pulled up a secure file on the main display. Intercepted communications from the Karzai network, a sophisticated terrorist organization operating across Central Asia. Former military officers, expert strategists, well-funded, and unfortunately, very good at what they did. But this wasn't just regular chatter. This was command-level communication between their top 3 leaders, General Dmitry Volkov, Russian military defector, tactical genius, responsible for at least 40 successful operations against Western targets. Body count, estimated 200-plus civilians. Dr. Rashid Al-Mahdi, Syrian-born strategist, Ph.D. in strategic studies from Cambridge, the brains behind the network's most sophisticated attacks, personally ordered the bombing that killed 23 aid workers in Kabul. Colonel Isabella Vargas, former Argentinian Special Forces, expert in psychological operations and the only person in the organization who'd successfully evaded capture for over a decade, known for torturing intelligence officers before execution. The 3 of them formed what intelligence agencies called the Triad, the most dangerous leadership structure in modern terrorism. They never met in person. They communicated through layers of encryption so complex that the NSA had given up trying to crack it. But Ella had found another way in. 6 months ago, she'd noticed a pattern in seemingly unrelated financial transactions, small amounts moving through dozens of shell corporations, nothing that would trigger automated alerts. But Ella wasn't just a trigger puller. She had a mind that saw patterns others missed. It took her 3 months to crack the code. The transactions weren't about moving money. They were a communication system. The amounts, the timing, the recipient accounts. It was all a massive substitution cipher. Once she understood the key, she could read everything. The triad thought they were having secure conversations. They had no idea that a woman in a bunker in Virginia was listening to every word. And 3 days ago, she'd intercepted something that made her blood run cold, but also sparked something else, something dark and focused. Blackwell pulled up the decrypted message on screen. From Volkov to Almaty, Vargas, Re, Echo Protocol. Subject Echo 7 has become unacceptable liability. Analysis confirms she has penetrated our communication systems. Recommend immediate termination. Suggest Operation Nightfall. Simultaneous strike on a residence, vehicle, and known associates. No survivors. Implement within 72 hours. The response from Almaty came 6 hours later. Concur. Echo 7's combat capabilities exceed previous assessments. She represents Category Alpha threat. Approve Nightfall with enhancement. Target her family first. Father, Miami. Sister, Boston. Niece, Denver. Force her into emotional compromise before final elimination. Vargas's reply was characteristically brief. Agreed. I will handle personal termination. She should see her family's photographs before she dies. Ella stared at the screen, her face completely expressionless. Inside, something shifted, something primal and dangerous. They were going to kill her father, her sister, her 8-year-old niece, Carmen. We're moving you to protective custody immediately, Blackwell said. Your father, sister, and niece are already being extracted by field teams. You'll all be in a secure facility within 3 hours. Ella didn't respond immediately. She was thinking about something else entirely, something that had nothing to do with hiding. Commander, she said slowly, her voice carrying an edge Blackwell had heard before, the edge that meant Ella was about to go operational. How long have we been trying to eliminate the triad? Blackwell frowned. 8 years. Why? Because they just told us exactly where they're going to be. Blackwell's eyes widened as he understood. The assassination attempt, they'll have to coordinate in person, Ella continued, her voice steady and cold. An operation this complex, targeting a U.S. Special Operations officer and her family simultaneously across multiple states, they can't do that through their normal encrypted channels. Too much real-time coordination required, too many variables. They'll have to meet face-to-face. That's a hell of an assumption, Echo. It's not an assumption. It's tactical necessity. Ella pulled up a series of analyses she'd been compiling for months. Look at their pattern. Every major operation they've executed, and I mean every single one, there's a 48-hour window beforehand where all their encrypted traffic goes completely silent. We thought it was operational security, random timing, but it's not random. It's when they meet in person to finalize details. Blackwell studied the data. Ella was right. The pattern was there. Even if you're correct, Blackwell said carefully, we can't authorize a direct action mission on U.S. soil. The legal implications, they're planning to murder American civilians on American soil, Ella interrupted, her voice flat and hard. My family. Other innocent people. That gives us legal authority for defensive action under the National Defense Authorization Act, Section 1021. You want to kill them. I want to eliminate 3 high-value targets who are actively planning mass casualty events on American territory, Ella corrected. There's a difference. And Commander, you know as well as I do, people like this don't stop. We can arrest them, they get exchanged in some future prisoner swap. We can rendition them, they escape or get released. There's only one permanent solution to the triad. Blackwell was quiet for a long moment. What are you proposing? Ella had been planning this for exactly 72 minutes since the moment she'd read the assassination order, and her plan didn't involve handcuffs. We let Operation Nightfall proceed, but we control the environment. I'll be at the safe house in Maryland. My family will be secured elsewhere, but the triad won't know that. When they come to kill me, she paused, loading a fresh magazine into her HK-416 with practiced efficiency. I'll be waiting for them. You're talking about a close-quarters engagement against 12 hostiles plus 3 HVTS, 15 against 1. Ella's smile was cold and predatory. I've had worse odds, Commander. Remember Kandahar? Blackwell did remember. Ella had walked into a Taliban compound with nothing but a rifle and walked out 30 minutes later having eliminated 17 hostiles, 0 friendly casualties. She'd been 26 years old. And when it's over, Blackwell asked quietly. When it's over, the triad will be permanently neutralized. No trials, no prisoner exchanges, no coming back. Just 3 terrorists who made the fatal mistake of threatening an American special operators family. The plan took 6 hours to fully develop. Ella worked with Delta Unit's tactical team, communication specialists, and weapons experts. Every detail had to be perfect. One mistake, and she'd be the one going home in a body bag. The setup was elegant in its simplicity. Ella would accidentally transmit her location through a channel the triad had been monitoring. A safe house in rural Maryland, supposedly secure but actually a carefully prepared kill box. Her family would be there too, or at least that's what the intelligence would indicate. The transmission would include just enough security protocols to seem legitimate, but with small flaws that would make the triad believe they'd gotten lucky, that they'd caught a genuine mistake in American operational security. Then, Ella would prepare the battle space. She spent the afternoon rigging the safe house, not with surveillance equipment, with kill zones. She removed furniture to create clear lines of fire. She reinforced her position behind a concrete support pillar that would stop rifle rounds. She set up additional lighting that she could control, creating blind spots and areas of tactical advantage. She placed backup weapons at strategic locations, a Glock 19 in the kitchen, a Remington 870 shotgun in the hallway, extra magazines hidden throughout the house. Most importantly, she studied the approach vectors. There were 3 main entry points to the house. She positioned herself where she could engage threats from any direction with her HK-416. The property itself was isolated, 40 acres of wooded terrain, nearest neighbor 3 miles away. Perfect for what was about to happen. No witnesses, no collateral damage, just professionals settling a deadly disagreement with the only language that mattered: violence. Ella had also prepared fallback positions. If the initial engagement went wrong, she had 3 separate defensive points she could retreat to. Each one offered cover, concealment, and clear fields of fire. She'd stockpiled ammunition at each location, enough to sustain a prolonged firefight if necessary. "Echo, you don't have to do this alone," said Lieutenant Ryan Cross, Delta Unit's senior tactical officer. Cross was 6 feet 2 inches, former Navy SEAL, with the kind of calm competence that came from 15 years of surviving impossible missions. He was 38, lean and dangerous, with sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. Ella shook her head. "The triad will have counter-surveillance. Any hint of additional operators and they'll abort. It has to look like I'm alone. You'll be outnumbered 15-1. Only until I start shooting." Then the numbers changed quickly. Cross recognized that look in her eyes, the absolute certainty of a predator about to spring a trap. He'd seen it before in the most elite operators he'd worked with, the ones who survived impossible odds because they refused to acknowledge that survival was impossible. "Your family knows what you're doing?" he asked. "My father does. He's former Marine Recon. He understands." Ella checked her rifle one more time. Chamber, magazine, optics, suppressor, everything perfect. "He told me the same thing he told me before my first deployment. Come home safe. And if you can't come home safe, make sure the other guys don't come home at all." Cross nodded slowly. "You need anything else?" "Quiet. Time to focus, and maybe say a prayer for the triad because they have no idea what they're walking into." The transmission went out at 1400 hours the next day. carefully crafted to look like an accidental security breach. Ella's location at the Maryland safe house, references to her family being there, enough details to make it credible, enough flaws to make it believable that someone had made a mistake. 47 minutes later, Delta Unit Signals Intelligence detected the first response. The Triad's encrypted channels lit up with activity. They'd taken the bait. Over the next 18 hours, Ella watched from the safe house as the enemy mobilized. She could see it all through satellite feeds relayed to a tablet in her position. They were good. Very good. They used multiple cutouts, layered their communications, employed sophisticated counter-surveillance. But Ella had been studying their patterns for years. She could see through the deception. Volkov was coordinating the tactical assault, 12 operators, military precision, synchronized strike. Al-Mahdi was analyzing the intelligence, calculating probabilities, identifying optimal approach vectors. Vargas was preparing the personal kill. She would be the one to actually pull the trigger on Ella. Everything was proceeding exactly as Ella had predicted. She spent the waiting hours in meditation, a technique her ranger instructor had taught her. Quiet the mind, focus the body, become the weapon. She visualized the engagement repeatedly, every possible scenario, every contingency. By the time the Triad arrived, her muscle memory would take over, thought would be too slow, only trained instinct would matter. At 0300 hours, her secure phone buzzed. Unknown number, but the encryption signature told her everything she needed to know. It was Vargas. "Hello, Echo 7, a woman's voice said, smooth, cultured, with just a hint of Argentinian accent. "Or should I call you Ella?" "We've been studying you for quite some time." Ella kept her voice neutral, her hand resting on her rifle. "Colonel Vargas, I'd say it's a pleasure, but we both know that would be a lie." A soft laugh. "Indeed. I'm calling to give you a chance, Ella. A professional courtesy, if you will. We know about the safe house. We know about your family. We're coming for you in approximately 3 hours." "Why tell me this?" "Because I want you to know. I want you to spend those 3 hours understanding that there's no escape. Your combat skills are impressive, but you've made one fatal mistake." "What's that?" "You think you can fight all of us. Volkov has planned the tactical approach. Al-Mahdi has calculated every probability. I will personally ensure you die slowly. You're outnumbered, outgunned, and out of options." Ella smiled, even though Vargas couldn't see it. Her hand tightened on her HK-416. "You know, Colonel, you're absolutely right about one thing. Someone is definitely going to die slowly tonight. I guess we'll find out who." She hung up. 3 hours to sunrise. 3 hours until the Triad walked into her kill zone. Ella checked her weapons one final time. HK-416, loaded, suppressor tight, optics zeroed, Glock 19, 15 rounds, 1 in the chamber, Remington 870, 7 shells of 00 buckshot, 4 extra magazines for the rifle, 2 for the pistol. She wasn't going to arrest anyone tonight. She was going to war. At 0545 hours, the first hostile elements appeared on thermal imaging. 3 vehicles approaching from different directions, textbook tactical movement. Ella watched them deploy. 12 operators, exactly as predicted. They surrounded the safe house, cut the external power, jammed the communications. But Ella had her own power supply, her own communications, and most importantly, her own plan. Through her night vision scope, she watched them stack up at the entry points. Professional, disciplined, confident. They had no idea what was waiting for them inside. The assault team moved with precision that spoke of extensive training. They used hand signals, maintained tactical spacing, covered each other's movements. These weren't amateurs. They were professionals who'd done this hundreds of times. But they'd never done it against someone like Ella Ramirez. The first team breached the front door with a shaped charge, flashbang grenade, tactical entry, 4 operators moving in train formation. Ella let them get 3 steps inside. Then she opened fire. The HK-416 came alive in her hands, short, controlled bursts. The suppressor kept it quiet, not silent, but quiet enough. 3 rounds into the first target's chest, shift, 3 into the second. The third operator was turning when Ella's rounds caught him in the side. The fourth tried to return fire, but Ella had already moved positions. 4 hostiles down in less than 5 seconds. The second team heard the suppressed fire and hesitated. Fatal mistake. Ella was already repositioning, using the concrete pillar for cover. She caught them in the doorway. The fatal funnel. Nowhere to move, nowhere to hide. Her rifle barked again. Controlled aggression, professional violence. This was what she'd been trained for, what she was exceptionally good at. The team leader tried to coordinate a response, shouting orders in Russian, but Ella's rounds found him before he could finish the sentence. The remaining 2 operators attempted to lay down suppressive fire, but they were firing at where Ella had been, not where she was. She flanked them in seconds, her movement fluid and silent. 2 more bursts, 2 more bodies, 3 more down. The third team tried to coordinate, but Ella had already anticipated. She'd studied Volkov's tactics for months. She knew he'd try to flank, to create crossfire. She threw a flashbang of her own, blinding, disorienting, then moved through the chaos with absolute certainty. Her rifle found targets with mechanical efficiency. Center mass, double tap, move, next target. One operator managed to get a shot off that ricocheted near Ella's position. She dropped prone, rolled, came up firing. The operator went down clutching his throat. The assault team was elite, but they were reacting. Ella was executing a plan. Within 90 seconds of the initial breach, 11 of the 12 operators were down. The last one tried to retreat, stumbling over his fallen comrades. His night vision goggles were askew, his rifle empty, his hands trembling. Ella let him run. She wanted him to run, because outside, the triad was waiting. Volkov, Almaty, and Vargas, personally overseeing the operation, confident in their victory. The surviving operator burst through the door, panicked, bleeding from a grazing wound across his shoulder. It's a trap. She's killed everyone. Ella appeared in the doorway behind him, backlit by the house lights she'd activated, her rifle shouldered, professional, calm, deadly. She put 3 rounds into the fleeing operator's back. He fell forward, landing at Vargas's feet. Then she turned her attention to the triad. They stood there, 15 meters away, finally understanding. The shock on their faces would have been comical if the situation wasn't so deadly serious. Volkov reached for his sidearm, too slow. Ella's first burst caught him high in the chest. The Russian general, who'd survived 3 wars and countless assassination attempts, went down hard, his eyes wide with disbelief that this young woman had been his end. Almaty tried to run, pointless. Ella tracked him smoothly, her training taking over. Lead the target, controlled breathing, squeeze. He collapsed after 3 steps, his brilliant strategic mind unable to calculate a solution to overwhelming firepower. Vargas was different. Vargas was a professional. She drew her weapon fast, got 2 shots off. One round sparked off the concrete near Ella's head. The other missed by inches, close enough that Ella felt the air displacement. But Ella didn't miss. Her final burst caught Vargas' center mass. The Argentinian operator's eyes widened in shock, not fear, but recognition. One professional acknowledging another before the darkness came. She fell backward, her weapon clattering on the ground. Silence settled over the property like a shroud. 15 hostiles, 15 down. Mission time 4 minutes, 37 seconds. Ella stood in the doorway, her rifle still shouldered, scanning for additional threats. Her breathing was controlled, her hands were steady. This was what she was, what she'd been trained to become, a weapon in human form. She was 28 years old and had just killed 15 people in less than 5 minutes. The youngest operator in Shadow Unit Delta's history to successfully execute a solo engagement against overwhelming odds. The cleanup took hours. Delta Unit operators swept in, securing the scene, documenting everything. Medical examiners, forensic teams, intelligence analysts extracting data from the Triad's phones and equipment. Commander Blackwell walked through the carnage, his face carefully neutral. He'd seen combat across 4 continents, but even he was impressed and slightly disturbed by the surgical precision of Ella's work. 15 hostiles eliminated, he said quietly. 0 friendly casualties. Textbook close-quarters combat. They came to kill my family, Commander, Ella said, her voice flat. I made sure they couldn't. Blackwell looked at the bodies being processed by the forensic team. The triad. We've been hunting them for 8 years, and you eliminated all 3 in under 5 minutes. 4 minutes, 37 seconds, Ella corrected. I was counting. Echo, you know there will be an inquiry. 15 dead on U.S. soil. They were armed hostile forces engaged in an active terrorist operation on American territory, Ella interrupted. I was authorized to use lethal force under the National Defense Authorization Act, Section 1021, subsection C. Every shot I fired was legally justified defensive action. Blackwell nodded slowly. He'd already read Ella's after-action report. Every detail documented, every decision justified, every kill righteous under the rules of engagement. Lieutenant Cross approached, carrying Ella's spent magazines and shell casings in evidence bags. Commander, the forensic analysis confirms Echo's statement. Every hostile was armed and actively engaged in the assault. The engagement timeline matches her report exactly. This was a defensive action against overwhelming force. How many rounds did she fire total? Blackwell asked. Cross checked his notes. 63 rounds from the HK-416, all accounted for, 45 confirmed hits, 18 misses or suppressive fire. That's a 71% hit rate in a dynamic close-quarters engagement against multiple targets in low-light conditions. Blackwell's eyebrows rose slightly. Even for an elite operator, those were exceptional numbers. Your family is safe, Blackwell said to Ella. Your father wants to talk to you. Ella walked outside, away from the bodies, away from the smell of cordite and death. The sun was rising now, painting the Maryland countryside in shades of gold and crimson. Beautiful and peaceful, a stark contrast to the violence that had just unfolded. Her father Miguel was waiting on a secure video call. Former Marine recon, 62 years old, still with the bearing of a warrior. Mija, he said quietly. Blackwell told me what happened, told me what you did. I protected the family, Papa. Like you taught me. Miguel was quiet for a moment, his eyes seeing through the screen into his daughter's soul. And how do you feel, Ella? After everything? Ella thought about that question. How did she feel? She just killed 15 people, ended 15 lives. Some of them were just soldiers following orders, but 3 of them, the triad, they were monsters who'd killed hundreds of innocent people. I feel like I did what needed to be done, she said finally. Nothing more, nothing less. That's my girl, Miguel said, pride and sadness mixing in his voice. But remember, Mija, don't let this define you. You're more than what you had to become tonight. Am I, Papa? I'm 28 years old, and I just killed 15 people without hesitation, without remorse. What does that make me? It makes you a warrior, Miguel said firmly. A protector. Someone who stands between the innocent and those who would harm them. But Ella, listen to me carefully. Being a warrior is what you do, not who you are. Don't lose yourself in the violence. Don't let it consume you. After the call ended, Ella sat alone in the operations vehicle, her rifle finally set aside. Her hands were steady, her breathing was calm. But inside, something had changed. She'd crossed a line tonight, not legally. Everything she'd done was authorized, justified, righteous under the law. But personally, she'd taken 15 lives in under 5 minutes, and the truth that scared her most was how easy it had been, how natural it had felt. 3 weeks later, Ella sat across from the unit psychiatrist, mandatory after any incident involving lethal force. Dr. Jennifer Cole was in her early 40s, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, but sharp. She'd evaluated special operators for 15 years. She knew when someone was hiding trauma. She also knew when someone was processing violence in dangerous ways. How are you sleeping, Ella? Fine. No nightmares, no flashbacks, no intrusive thoughts about that night. I replay the engagement sometimes, tactically, looking for things I could have done better. The third team, I gave them almost 2 seconds to react. That was sloppy. Could have been faster. Dr. Cole made a note. Ella, you killed 15 people in less than 5 minutes. It's normal to have emotional responses. They came to murder my family, Doctor, Ella interrupted, her voice hard. My 8-year-old niece. They were going to kill her to hurt me before they killed me. So yes, I eliminated them. And no, I don't feel guilty about it. Should I? I'm not here to tell you what you should feel. I'm here to help you process what you do feel. Ella was quiet for a long moment. You want to know the truth, Doctor? The thing that actually bothers me? Yes. It's not that I killed them. It's that it was so easy. I've been trained my entire adult life to be a weapon, to identify threats and eliminate them with maximum efficiency. And that night, that's exactly what I was. A weapon. Not a person. A weapon. And that frightens you? It should frighten everyone, Ella said quietly. Because I'm good at it. Really good. And there's a part of me that likes being good at something. Even something as terrible as killing. Dr. Cole leaned forward slightly. Ella, what you're describing is a common experience among elite operators. The recognition that you have extraordinary capabilities for controlled violence. But here's what concerns me. You're 28 years old. You've been doing this for 6 years. That's a lot of operational stress for someone your age. Age is irrelevant, Doctor. Capability is what matters. But longevity also matters, Ella. The human psyche wasn't designed for sustained exposure to this level of violence. Even with the best training, the best support systems, there's a cumulative effect. And you're experiencing it faster than most because you started so young. Ella considered that. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that you might benefit from a temporary reassignment, training duty, intelligence analysis, something that doesn't require you to be the trigger puller for a while. So I can process my feelings, learn to be normal again, so you can remember that you're human, Ella. Not just a weapon. Ella wanted to argue, wanted to explain that the world needed weapons, needed people willing to do terrible things to terrible people. But she also heard her father's words echoing, "Don't let this define you." "I'll think about it," she said finally. Dr. Cole nodded, knowing that was the best she'd get for now. 2 months after the Maryland incident, Commander Blackwell called Ella into his office. "The inquiry's complete," Blackwell said. "Every shot you fired was ruled justified. The triad is eliminated. The Karzai network has collapsed without its leadership. You've been recommended for a commendation." "I don't want a commendation, Commander." "I know, but that's not why I called you in." Blackwell pulled up a file. "We have a new situation. High-value target in Syria. Chemical weapons expert, planning an attack on a refugee camp. Civilians, mostly children. Intelligence confirms he'll be at a specific location in 72 hours. Ella looked at the file, looked at the target's face, looked at the intelligence about the planned attack. "You want me to eliminate him," she said. It wasn't a question. "I want you to stop an attack that will kill hundreds of innocent children," Blackwell corrected. "The method is your choice." Ella thought about her father's words, about Dr. Cole's analysis, about who she was versus who she'd been trained to become. Then she thought about hundreds of children in a refugee camp, innocent, vulnerable, with no one to protect them except someone willing to do terrible things to terrible people. "Commander, I need to tell you something first." Blackwell waited. "Dr. Cole suggested I might need a break, some time away from direct action, and part of me knows she's right. I'm 28 years old, and I've killed 47 people. That's not normal. That's not healthy. And I'm starting to lose track of where the weapon ends and the person begins." "So what are you saying, Echo?" "I'm saying that after Syria, I want that reassignment. I want time to figure out who Ella Ramirez is when she's not killing people. But right now, those children need someone, and I'm the best option you have." Blackwell studied her carefully. "You're sure?" "I'm sure that innocent children deserve to live more than I deserve to feel comfortable about myself. So yes, I'm sure." "All right, Echo, 48 hours to prep. And Ella, when you come back, we'll get you that reassignment, training duty. You can teach the next generation how to be as good as you are." "How to be weapons, you mean?" "How to be protectors," Blackwell corrected. "There's a difference." Ella stood to leave, then paused. "Commander, can I ask you something?" Of course. Do you think I'm too young for this? For what I've become? Blackwell was quiet for a long moment. I think you're the most capable operator I've ever worked with. I also think that capability came at a price, and I think it's important that we honor both those truths, your exceptional skills and the cost of developing them. Ella nodded slowly. That was probably the most honest answer she'd ever get. She left to prepare for Syria. Because somewhere, children needed protection. And Ella Ramirez had a very particular set of skills. Skills that made her a nightmare for people who hurt the innocent. The mission to Syria went exactly as planned. Ella infiltrated the target's compound, eliminated him and his 4 bodyguards with surgical precision, and extracted without incident. 37 minutes from insertion to extraction, 0 civilian casualties, her 48th through 52nd confirmed kills. When she returned to Virginia, Blackwell kept his promise. She was reassigned to training duty, teaching advanced tactics to new Delta Unit recruits. Standing in front of her first class looking at operators who were older than her but less experienced, Ella realized something important. She could teach them to shoot, to move, to think tactically, to eliminate threats with maximum efficiency. But she could also teach them something else, something she was still learning herself. How to carry the weight of necessary violence without letting it destroy who you are. How to be a weapon when needed, but remain a person when the fighting stops. How to protect the innocent without becoming the monster you're fighting against. At 28 years old, Ella Ramirez had become one of the most lethal operators in American Special Operations history. But she was also learning to be something else, a teacher, a mentor, a person who understood both the necessity of violence and the importance of remaining human despite it. She didn't enjoy killing, but she was exceptionally good at it. And in a world full of monsters, sometimes the only thing that stops a monster is someone willing to become a different kind of monster, a controlled monster, a righteous monster, a weapon pointed at the darkness, but wielded by someone who still remembered the light, and Ella had made her peace with that. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, you can subscribe to see more incredible stories like this one.